Dwight, my brother. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Sorry about that.
Hey, no worries, no worries. How you been, man? Like, how's everything going?
I've been pretty good. We're training today, and man, I went to sleep afterwards. I was out. I was out, man.
Oh, no worries, man. So how's training going? How are you feeling with everything?
I've been pretty good. Training's been a lot better. Especially since my last fight. My last fight, I just moved to San Diego, and I was, training here. Now I'm a lot more comfortable. I have like, more resources available to me, more things I'm doing, more people to train with, and things like that. So it's been really good. Really
That's
good.
awesome, man. I'm glad to hear that. Before I get into UFC 261, I do want to kind of backtrack a little bit. So like starting off here right from the beginning, I mean, you have like you started in the Contender Series and then now you're in the UFC. Like, what's the feeling of being able to get such a nice win in the Contender Series and then having Dana White call you and say, "Hey, you're in the UFC, man."
That's like the words dream come true. Like it feels it feels cliche, but that's like what it is. Because especially the year that led up to that fight, like it seemed like I was I was done, man. Like I had a lot of fights canceled. I had a really big title fight in a smaller show canceled like a little before it. So I had been fighting for I think 7 years or already at that point, and it was like I was always having this bad luck where fights kept getting canceled for me. So this ended up, coming in at the time when I really was trying my hardest to make it, and it worked out really good. Him, especially, kind of pulling me aside and saying like we want to take this guy. Made me feel like okay, like everything I did leading up to this, all the sacrifices I made, it was worth it. It kind of like it shouldn't need it, but it definitely validated all the experiences I went through in the years prior. So it's definitely dream come true.
Yeah, it's almost like a feeling like it all led up to this kind of moment, kind of cliche.
Yeah, that's exactly what it when it captures the moment exactly. Those are the perfect words for it. Yeah.
hmm And kind of talking about the Contender Series for a second, do you feel like the future of the whole Ultimate Fighter is kind of coming to an end?
Uh, well, the Ultimate Fighter, the TV show, are you talking about? Or are you talking about the
Yeah,
Contender
the
Series?
Ultimate Fighter TV show. I know they're doing a new season, but do you
Mm.
feel like the Contender Series is kind of starting to replace that?
Nah, because I I feel like there's two separate things. Because I actually auditioned for that show and I got picked for it years ago. Like when this is the same season where Uriah Hall and Derek Brunson were on. Like I was on that one at the last minute. Like I didn't make it. So like I was ready to go on to that. I was trying for years to get in UFC,
hmm
trying for years. But that show gives you a more personal look at the fighters. Like they try to give you a little snapshot with the Contender Series, and you get to see like their trials and getting there more. But in the Ultimate Fighter, you see their personality and what their real makeup is. And I think you build a strong connection with the fighters through the Ultimate Fighter. Like Forrest Griffith, like I'm a fan of his to this day. Yeah,
hmm
for his fights for sure, but the Ultimate Fighter show, like seeing all these people overcome adversities on a regular basis, you kind of bonds you to them like for a long time.
Yeah, and I find sometimes with the Contender Series, sometimes they only give you that a little like that 2 minute story, and a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times it's that kind of cliche story of this is what happened and this is what I'm going to do to honor this or that. It's almost like the same kind of everyone's kind of has a little bit of a mini story, but at least like you said on the Ultimate Fighter, you get to kind of get an experience of what this fighter is kind of like not so much inside the cage, but outside the cage, what kind of person they
Yeah.
are. And oh, this guy, I want this guy or this girl to, capture
Mm-hmm.
that belt one day. I mean, you look at Tony Ferguson, he was in the
Yeah.
Contender Series and I followed him for a long time. So it's
Mm-hmm.
nice to kind of see that kind of thing. Is it kind of bittersweet that you got your moment in the Contender Series versus the Ultimate Fighter? What would you prefer?
Well, well, God is good, so I made it in there at the end of the day.
Right.
But the Ultimate Fighter show, I was kind of scared to go because I had to be away for some time, and I feel with all the effort that I put into getting there, I would want to go in there and then show people like what I was like, and get to kind of get to know me better. But honestly. what I was looking forward to there was the fights. So, so with the Contender Series, it's like you kind of got to the meat and potatoes of it. You got the fight, and then like show everybody your skills. Because of that previous experience of trying to get on Ultimate Fighter, I think the Contender Series win was actually more. It's sweeter for me because it let me know that I belonged in this place. Because I think that's the thing that kind of frightens people in the beginning. I mean, when you turn pro, it's like, at least for me, it was like, oh, I'm pro now, but it's the same thing. It's like you fight the same guys, you know what I mean? So nothing
Right.
much. When you fight another country, you go international stuff, you're like, oh, okay, I can fight on a world level. But we all hold the UFC on a certain level where we feel like, okay, these guys are going to be crazy, And I don't know if I can make it. I felt like to get on a Contender Series, I had to feel like I could beat anybody, no matter who it was, and I was able to prove that to myself, and that's what gave me the confidence going into the actual UFC, and start swinging and feel confident.
Nice, nice. And with the whole process of the Contender Series, do you apply for that? Do they contact you? How's that work?
I'm not sure. Well, my manager told me about it, and he told me
Okay.
about it like, man, he was telling me about it for like almost like a year. 'Cause I tried to actually. It's gonna sound crazy. I went to the Ultimate Fighter show again. So I went to the Ultimate Fighter show
Okay.
again, and it turned out that it was gonna be a women only episode or season. And I didn't know.
Wow.
So I showed up. I went flew over down there, and I showed up, and they were like, "Oh, we're only doing the girls in a certain weight class." And at that time, my manager told me, "Hey, don't worry. We can get you on the Contender show. We have it set up if it's gonna be good." And it was comforting, but after going through all that trouble and making it there, I definitely felt disheartened, and I started to feel like, man, like I had the worst luck. Man, I got the worst luck. Like
Right.
I don't know what's gonna happen with the Contender Show thing if I'm gonna get this opportunity or not. But by grace of God, I got it, so it worked out.
Wow. That's quite the story. And I mean, you've had an impressive run since you've been in the UFC for the most part. And I mean, is the body snatcher just getting started?
Yeah, definitely. I think now, and I feel like I can express myself the best now. I think when I first came in UFC, like I didn't know what to expect, but I had my own ideals of what I needed to do, and I was focused more on winning by knockout uh, than actual performance. I was like, I'm gonna get this great knockout because I see these openings, I see these counters, and I'm gonna land this shot. He's gonna fall this way, and I'm gonna move this way. All this stuff like that. And then I ended up losing a split decision on that fight, and I was just angry. I was really upset.
Hmm.
I
Of
felt
course.
like I had more to show, and I didn't show it. Like I was almost holding back and trying to be cool, almost. Like I'm trying to win with this thing. And in the next fight, I went all out and I won. And then I felt that was my focus now was just performance. And even with that first win there, I felt like I didn't show as much and I wasn't training hard enough and I wasn't doing everything I could. The thing about this kind of stuff is when people say, that there's levels to this and stuff like that, there's levels to the training and preparation, you know? And what you do at an amateur level and even an early pro level is not going to be what gets you to compete at the top level because you could
Hmm.
fight a guy that you could beat him, but he's just a little more conditioned than you, or he has some kind of like a better training program, and he makes the fight difficult. You can't rely on just knocking people out and then winning the fight that way. I mean, it's possible for sure, but you have to focus on your performance, and even if it feels uncomfortable, do things to get yourself ready and prepared for the fight the way it is, not the way you expect it to be.
Hmm. No, I totally agree. Let's talk about UFC 261 now. So, you're fighting Stefan Stolulik.
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now, I've been freaking cursed with names all day long, so bear with me.
All
Um,
right.
so I mean, besides his layup, like this guy, I mean, he's had a pretty impressive record. I mean, his
Mhm.
finishes and everything. I mean, what are you expecting from this fight?
But the thing about it is, I think because of my style, I have the same opponent every single time, almost. It's like the guy will strike me for a couple seconds and try to take me down.
Hmm.
Like people expect me to not be good on the ground, not be able to get back up. They want to get my arms tired, and all these things like that. And they don't realize that that's the same strategy I've been fighting since I first started fighting. So this
Hmm.
guy, I'm very comfortable fighting this type of opponent. And also, he has like he has kind of like a style that is more I say not karate, but it's a little unorthodox. And these guys that fight like that work really well with me. Like I like this kind of fight because that's how I fight. Like, these are the kind of guys that I grew up like competing against. Like karate, kung fu kind of guys. So yeah, I'm very comfortable with this fight, and I feel like I'm gonna show some really good skills.
Well, and you talk about him trying to take you down. like a lot of his wins have been like guillotines. I mean,
Yeah.
you find it gets a point where it's you already know you're expecting that's a tool that he might try and use.
Hmm. Well, I feel as though like for me, everybody knows I'm trying to punch him. You know, like it's just like it's a thing. I feel for people who do grappling, they need to set up a situation, and you almost kind of have to allow it to happen, you know, or
Yeah.
for it to work. And I wouldn't say allow because you know obviously their skill level pulls into it, but uh, I know what to expect for sure. But you know, I'm gonna be careful with everything. I mean, I've seen a couple of his fights, and my coach has seen a couple of his fights, and you know, you don't want to discount anybody from being able to do anything else. You know, so I'm just ready for whatever he brings, and I really feel I have a lot of answers for it. I see a lot of good opportunities here.
Awesome, awesome. And I mean, like, obviously, I would never ask you to spoil your game plan, whatever. But what are some things that you and your team are working on to prepare for this fight?
Well, the thing about it is, I think for me, this question is a little like it's lackluster, you know, like on my answer because it's always the same game plan. It's like I'm punch him, you know, drop him and finish him, and that's a vague answer, but it really is like the core of what I'm trying to do because uh,
Hmm.
I grew up watching fights from my grandfather, like you know, my family watched boxing and watched kickboxing and MMA, you know, and it's what I liked growing up was just to see like great finishes. You know, like I love seeing great finishes. I love the reaction of the room. You know, it was almost like forget what's happening on the TV. When I saw like my grandpa, and my uncles jump up, I was like, oh, everybody was happy. So I want to bring that. Like that's like the gift I think I can bring to you know, the fans when they watch a fight. You know, it's not going to be you know some other like I'm gonna just I'll grapple this guy and hold him down and beat him. I could do that, you know, like, and I've done it before in fights against guys who were like, you know, Olympic Taekwondo artists, stuff like that. Yeah, I held him down and beat him up, you know, but I'm not looking to do that. I'm always coming to strike, keep it standing, and get a great finish.
That's awesome. Now, I mean, UFC 236 was a massive card. I mean, maybe not so
Mm.
much on paper at first, but it turned out to be such a massive card. It was a great card, probably one, in my opinion, one of the best cards I've ever seen.
Oh,
You
cool.
got a chance to fight on that card, and now you're gonna be fighting on UFC 261, and that's
Yeah.
a massive. That is probably a massive card on paper. So,
Yeah.
what's the feeling being able to be a part of another card like that?
I think it's an honor. It is I feel like you know they have faith that I'm gonna put on a good show. You know, because these shows are like historic. I mean, this one in particular is a historic show because it's gonna be the first one with the fans in it since they
Yeah.
stopped, you know, last year. So, you know, I really feel like it's necessary to go out there and put on the best show possible. Like, you know, a lot of my fighting before was based on my opponent. Like I would react to them, but now it's like no matter what they do, I'm gonna make this an exciting fight, no matter what, you know. And that feels like a mandate now with all this going on that people are coming in and they're gonna be you know spending the time coming to the actual show regardless of everything and trying to see a great event and that's part of it. So uh, it's definitely an honor to be part of this particular pay-per-view and I
Mhm.
felt really blessed to be part of the last one. You know, like like it really shows that they have faith in my abilities.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I'm excited to see the fans come back. Like, I think the idea as a viewer,
Hmm.
watching these fights, watching you fight, watching other fighters fight without the crowd, it was kind of cool to see hearing the coaches and what they're saying because a lot of times I watch with some friends that don't really understand MMA. I'm like saying the exact same thing that the coach was saying that look how you
Yeah,
know what you're doing. I'm like, you learn. It's learning the game. And so
yeah.
that was cool. But now it's kind of getting to the point where it's like we need the fans back. We need that crowd. Like throw the crowd in there. Come on.
Yeah, I think something. I mean, at least for me, I can't say everybody else, but you know, when you get into like a downer position or like you're really like putting it on your opponent, like you can hear the crowd a little bit. You can't really hear them, but when the referee jumps in front of the person and it's done, all of a sudden the sound just rushes back to your ears. I love that feeling. Like from my very first fight, like my very first fight that I ever had in sports, I won by TKO. And I felt that, and then I was hooked. I was like, I need this every other week, you know. So I'm looking forward to getting that feeling back this one, this in this fight.
Yeah, that's awesome. The only thing I'm not looking forward to is when you get two fighters and they're working their ass off and you hear the fans boo. Like that's
Uh,
just the most terrible thing you can ever do.
well, I feel like it is something that happens because or happened to happen because people didn't understand the sport as much. I think as people start to understand the sport more, they're becoming more. I don't want to say tolerant of jiu-jitsu and ground fighting, but they're recognizing the necessity of it more. You know,
Mhm.
um, it is kind of disheartening when you see it happen because these guys are going all in. Like they're trying their hardest, and sometimes when two skill sets meet, it happens that way. It just like it turns into a thing where this person feels safe doing this, and this person feels safe doing this, and it ends up being a wrestling match or ends up being like a stalemate. And there's a lot of mental stuff going on that people aren't seeing, where the person is thinking about the next three moves, the other person thinking about the next three moves, and they're fighting, but they're not even touching each other. They're just like a lot of like moving around and feints. So I think as a fans and everyone starts to recognize it more, it'll be less of that.
hmm
Yeah.
So you fought at middleweight and welterweight, but recently more welterweight. So where do you feel better at welterweight? What's with the weight cuts going? How's the weight cuts going?
Oh, weight cuts are fine. They're actually easier than they were before. Especially when I first came out of middleweight. Middleweight was fun. Had a lot of finishes there. Oh yeah, I fought there like 3 or 4 times, but I finished all those fights. But it was like the guys were big, man. Like we were,
Yeah, much bigger.
yeah, it was like I remember two fights though, but one in particular where I was pressed up against the cage, and I was like, okay, look, I'm stronger than this guy. Like I can move his head around, I can move his arms around, but he is pressed up against me against this cage, and I cannot move. It's ridiculous. I'm just like getting frustrated, and I think going through that let me see that uh it was definitely the national champion moved down. And then I started training with Luke Rockhold, and he was the 185 champion of belt, not belt, sorry, of Strikeforce at the time. And I was like, man, my opponents can get this big. It's crazy. It's crazy. So yeah, when I started training with him, I went down to welterweight, and I felt great. I feel like this is the size I'm supposed to be for combat sports. Yeah.
That's awesome. And what for your weight cut? How long does it normally take you to successfully make 170?
It depends. I mean, because it depends on how long I have to make it. To be honest.
Right, but let's say for this camp, how long is like when did you start?
It takes me about like uh a couple weeks. Like I stay around like 193 now, 194. Before I would be around like 205, and stuff like that. And now I'm a little lighter, moving around. Especially since my last fight, because I came back and I was training so consistently. And the thing about it too is I'm training more often now. So before I would train like one block at a day and a little bit at night. Now I'm training like an hour here, 2 hours there, an hour here, and it's
Mhm.
a lot more work than it's been before. I think because of that, like I've been having to I actually have to eat more to maintain this weight. And I think that's tell you, not well. I'm a vegetarian, so like I don't really eat a lot of like heavy foods, And so it was kind of hard for me to keep a lot of weight at some point. And then now, I remember just let go and just dropping the weight down and making my weight. So it's been pretty easy.
That's awesome, man. And I mean, I wanted to get your thoughts on some matchups. I mean, a guy that you recently fought, Daniel Rodriguez. I mean, I think he's fighting Mike Perry this weekend, if I
Yeah,
memory corrects me. I
no,
mean,
you're right.
yeah, yeah, I guess like you got a chance to fight Daniel Rodriguez. You know what he's about, and him fighting a guy like Mike Perry, a guy that's not is gonna stand there and bang. So how do you envision that fight going down?
Well, I actually just found out this fight was happening, like maybe like 20 minutes ago. Like
Really?
yeah, I just found out this fight was happening 20 minutes ago. I haven't had time to think about it. I feel like you know they're not just gonna have the reach advantage. Mike has been working a lot. I mean, you saw his last couple fights. He's been moving his head a lot more and coming in and working his way in. I think he's gonna put a lot of pressure on Daniel. And it's gonna be if he can manage that pressure, then he'll be fine because he has a reach advantage. But if he lets Mike get in there and start working on him and hitting him with shots, then it's gonna be really difficult for him. Mike is resilient, and he'll do some unorthodox things, and he might even take him down and start striking him there. I don't think the Daniel wants to fight on the ground. I'm sure he can, but I'm sure he'd rather keep standing up. I think that's where standing up is where he would have the most opportunity. Yeah.
hmm Yeah, and I like that fight. I wish that fight had a little bit more praise to it. I
Oh
guess like
yeah.
I could see it being a fight of the night. Um, Getting the fight of the night award. Looking at UFC 261 here, I mean, you also got another fight in your weight class. I mean, you got the rematch, Usman and
Oh.
Masvidal too. I mean, that's just a fight. I mean, I know that you're focused on your fight, but are you going to be watching that in the locker room?
Oh, for sure. I mean, luckily for me, like I'll be able to fight, and I'll have enough time to like cool down, do what I have to do, and then be able to sit and watch that one too. I'm ready for that fight. I would watch Masvidal fight like for years, man. Like even like back on YouTube, like years ago, with my friends, watching Kimbo's fights, and you would see like
Mhm.
one of his fights, and on the same like 9 minute video, you run into one of his fights, and I think because he's been competing for so long. I just love to see these guys win the belt. After all these different years of training in different organizations and different fights and ups and downs to like hone it in and then get the belt. Like that's an awesome story for me. I mean, I'm just like a too big a fan of like 80s movies and stuff like that, but it just culminates into like the perfect win. So I'm hoping that Masvidal wins this one.
Yeah, I hope so too. I mean, looking on paper, I mean, Usman's been on a tear.
Yeah,
I think he's very good. But I
oh for
think
sure.
it's more Masvidal as the more popular choice. I think.
Mm,
I too want to see him win the belt only because he's one of those guys that just seems to just be on the edge of getting the belt, and he was on that
yeah.
tear like not last year but the year before, and
Mhm.
it'll be interesting to see what's going to happen. Definitely, like I think it'll be interesting to see what's going to be like not cutting all that weight in 6 days. I mean, I don't think I would
That's
like
true. Yeah.
that too well. Um,
Well, he also has a. Now you mentioned that's true. This is a rematch, so he has a bit of a understanding of how this guy fights and moves. It's
mhm.
weird because they did just fight recently. I didn't think about it yet. So he's gonna have that as well. I mean, then also Usman has that as well, where he feels, he knows what he's gonna do because he's experienced his
Mhm.
timing before. In that situation though, the only reason I think the Masvidal has a bit of an edge, given it being a rematch, because he knows that he didn't get to do his full camp and cut. So he might feel he can do more and knows exactly where he can do more. Yeah.
Yeah, and also with the weight cut too. I mean, hopefully now that he has a better weight cut, it won't be cutting so much his gas tank as well. I mean, he's
Yeah.
probably been working on the cardio too, so that I think that'll be another thing too. If he's able to
Mm-hmm.
kind of stay in the fight, I think it's going to be a long night for Usman.
Mm-hmm.
Just looking at the female fight, Willie Zhang and Rose Namajunas, how do you see that fight going down?
Oh man, that's a tough one. Man,
It is.
I feel like this could be another fight night situation too because you know Rose has really good striking has good angles. But I don't think that Zan's gonna take a hit and then back off. Like we saw when she fought Joanna, how like she pressed the action. I think she's gonna do that again. She's gonna press the action, and it'll be up to Rose to take angles and like check and hit and get her off balance and make her feel uncomfortable in the range. And I think that'll be her best opportunity to actually be able to win it. I mean, because they just are swinging at each other, at range. I think that Zan's gonna have the advantage. But I expect Rose to do way more than that. So it's more of a matter of who can establish the range in that one.
Yeah, and the thing with Zhang too, I don't feel like we've got a chance to really see as much as we've seen from her. I think
Mm-hmm.
she has a lot of hidden things that we haven't seen her do. Now I'm excited to see what's going to happen with her. Um, and then just another female fight. I mean, Valentina and Andrade. I mean, that's a great fight, but I mean, Valentina, man.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to even think of anybody beating them after you've seen the performances that they've done.
Mhm.
Andrade, she's good though. I mean, she's obviously strong enough and determined enough to get the win. I mean, as good as people like fighters like her, when they fight, no matter who it is, you have to think that they can pull it off. Because it can just change in a second. I could see Valentino winning and then all of a sudden things change, and then like she's on her backpedaling and trying to survive the round. But I do feel like Valentina can get the win.
I agree. And with fellow New Yorker, I mean Chris Weidman, like
Yeah.
fighting Uriah Hall. I think this is a kind of a good fight for both guys. I mean, do you think Chris Weidman can get him out of that, get himself out of this little rut that he's in?
Well, they're both New York guys. It's New York, New York versus New
It
York.
is.
Yeah, yeah. Like this is a fight. Man, did they fight before? Another thing about it,
I
that,
think
that
they
might be
fought once. Yeah, I think they
in,
fought each other a long time ago.
in Ring of Combat, right? Yeah, I fought Ring of Combat back in the day. Like I think they fought before. So I don't remember how that fight went. Because like this is back when everybody was like coming up and trying to like make it. So obviously they have different skill sets now and like more pronounced skill sets. I I feel like man, Wyman, he is always so close, like in the last couple fights to just like getting a great finish and being and being done. But then something will go wrong or it'll be a little off. Uh, I think against a guy like Hall, he's gonna have to well obviously try to take him down, but getting into that range to do is gonna be hard. Like especially we saw when he fought oh gosh it was a middleweight. I can't remember the guy's name, but like it's one of my favorite fighters. I can't remember his name right now.
Anderson Silva.
No, not Anderson Silva. He fought at gosh, he fought Israel Adesanya a few fights ago, and he was blocking. He was blocking like this and coming in.
Oh, Paulo Costa.
Nah, but before that, I can see his face. I can see him moving around. Camera. He's from DR.
Kevin
Oh,
Gastelum.
I can't. I don't know. I can't remember his name. He's a great fighter as well. And he's one of my favorite guys. But for some reason, right now, I can't remember his name right now. But we saw like like when he fought him, he was doing well, and then he got knee like right. He caught a knee and ended up losing that match towards the end. So like I think that is gonna be kind of hesitating for him, or cause hesitation when he's fighting a guy like Uriah Hall, who will suddenly spin and throw a back kick or a spinning heel kick or a dropping back punch. It's going to be hard for Weidman to close that distance and feel comfortable or feel confident just because he knows how this guy fights before. So it's going to be a battle of will in there. Like that's really like how you say a style to make fights kind of thing. Where you have this grappler who can strike and you have a striker who can grapple. But we obviously
Mhm.
see what they want, and we're going to see who can impose their will. Because not just about taking the shots or defending it. It's about who's going to be able to make the other person scared to even express themselves at all. And
Mhm.
I don't know. I think that's a tough fight. That's a tough fight.
That's awesome, man. Well, after this fight and knowing that you're gonna win, what's obviously I would never ask any fighter, overlook any fighter, but obviously you plan on coming to win. So what would be the next step? What would you want next?
My goal I've set is to get into the top 10. Once I get into the top 10, I'll be able to fight the guys that I've wanted to fight for like the past like couple of years.
Mhm.
It's silly to me to call people out like when you're not even ranked. Because if I was ranked, if I was like number 4, number 5, and some guy that was ranked was like, hey man, I'm gonna fight this guy. I would be like, that doesn't really make sense. I want to go to the bell. I want to like move up the ranks. So I won't do that. But there are guys there for sure in the top 10 that I won't feel like my career is complete. I won't feel like I've been able to test myself properly as I fight certain these specific guys. And that's what I need from my personal growth. Not even just for the sport, just for like my career, but for my personal growth and test myself against these guys because the camp where I fight those guys will make me a better martial artist and a better person in general. So I'm looking forward to getting to the top 10 and doing all the things I need to do to get there.
Well, that's great to hear. And one more for you. So, I mean, let's just say, in the fantasy picking right now, you're in the top 10. Who would you fight right now if you had anybody you could except the champ?
Oh well, yeah, it would be Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, man. Like he's from that era that I was talking about with Ryan Hall and Derek Brunson, even Chris
Hmm.
Weidman, where I was doing Muay Thai for years, and I would hear about him about Wonderboy. I didn't even know his name, so Wonderboy. And then I remember a reporter showed me a video of him and was like, "Yeah, this guy is tough. The guy from he was a reporter from like another state. He wasn't from New York, but he was talking about him like he was unbeatable and how he throws his kick over the shoulder and all that stuff like that. And I was like, man, this guy looks good. I want to fight this guy. And then, I moved on to MMA. And then I saw that he got into MMA as well. And I watched his career for a long time. So I want that fight because I feel like, and it's not just about, like, I feel like I could beat him. It's not that. It's just that I want that competition at that level with a person with those kind of instincts. and that's gonna make me change my style and make it evolve so that I can feel like, yeah, I've went to war with the best people. Like his style versus my style makes a great fight that I feel like 20, 30 years from now, I'll see him in a bar and be like, "Yeah, man, that was great. That was a great fight. Like, that was crazy."
I think he's
So
the
that's
kind
what
of
I'm like.
guy. I think he's the kind of guy that's so nice. I'll probably just buy the drinks for you, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and that's another thing too. He has a competitive spirit. There's no malice in it. He's not fighting with like, oh, uh, cruel intention to do harm. It's about competition, and that's how I feel as well. Like I don't want to like even that fight I lost against D-Rod. Like I was upset because I thought the fight got stopped quickly. But I was happy because I saw how like excited this guy was. I was like, this guy is super excited for this win. And in another in competition, in those terms, like I knew this was like a great experience. So I was all right. I had to calm myself down and like accept it at the moment and be like, man, we put on a great show. And I feel like that's what I can get. But basically, guy make get a win. I get a win. I would have got like Wonder Boy. Not malice, but a competitive spirit.
Mm-hmm. Well, again, Dwight, it's been a pleasure having you on. I'm not going to take any more of your time here. So I do appreciate you taking your time coming on the podcast to talk a little bit about yourself. So Dwight, good luck with your fight at UFC 261. It's going to be a massive card. I'm looking forward to seeing you fight, man.
Thank you so much, man. Thanks for having me.